Aloha, I'm Mrs. Fisher, and today we are going to be looking at transitive, intransitive verbs, direct objects, indirect objects, objective and subjective pronouns, subject-verb agreement, pronoun agreement, and a recap. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start off with what's a transitive and intransitive verb? What are the differences there? So a sentence is a word or more that makes a complete thought. It contains a verb and a subject. That's what we've been taught. We know that all clauses have a subject and a verb and make a complete thought. After work, Tony slept. After work, Tony threw. Well, threw what? Threw up, threw the ball. I mean, what did he throw? So that's a sentence fragment. So the reason why that was a sentence fragment was because many times, because of the transitive verb, the complete thought needs a direct object or an indirect object. So after work, Tony threw, that was a fragment. After work, Tony threw what? After work, Tony threw the ball. After work, Tony threw his dog the ball. His dog's the indirect object, the ball's the direct object. The direct object is what's receiving the action, the throwing. He's not throwing the dog, he's throwing the ball. All right, so here's a little transitive and intransitive rap for you. Let's listen to this one. This one's kind of clever. Nice beat anyway, I like it a lot.
Oh yeah. Transitive and intransitive verbs. My favorite. Transitive engine number 9, passing over the railroad line. If the transitive verb should jump the track, it will want its DO back. Transitive engine number 9, passing over the railroad line. If the transitive verb should jump the track, it will want its DO back. Transitive, intransitive, what gives? I always use a train to explain. Why do I use a train to explain? Because transitive and train, they act and sound the same. A train has receiver of the steam engine's action. Engines move train cars, it's the reaction. A transitive verb has a receiver also, The receiver of a transitive verb is called the DO. The DO completes the transaction and receives the action. I also label the cars to show subject, verb, IO, and DO. If you see the statement, the teacher bought, it's not a complete thought. The teacher bought what? The transitive verb bought needs a DO to complete its thought. The teacher bought a train in order to explain. Intransitive verbs stand alone without a DO, they are fine. Like she will rhyme, her solo ended on time, and I am done with this rhyme. Transitive engine number 9, passing over the railroad line. If the transitive verb should jump the track, it will want its DO back. Transitive engine number 9, passing over the railroad line. If the transitive verb should jump the track, it will want its DO back. It will want its DO back.
So yes, I was a big photographer for my daughter, who ran around all over when she was a teenager. Okay, so I was the yearbook editor, so that's why I was doing all that. So anyway, the transitive verb answers the question who or what after the verb. So the answer to who or what is the direct object. So you find the direct object in this sentence. So if I say Robert cooked, I say Robert cooked who or Robert cooked what? And that answer is the direct object. So Robert cooked what? Spaghetti for dinner. Robert cooked what? The answer is the DO. Robert cooked what? Spaghetti is the DO. So to find the direct object, you ask who or what after the verb, and the answer is the direct object. At Coalina, Tony and Lance held paddles for the family photo. At Coalina, Ashley and Nikki held spears for the group picture. So we have who or what. So this is the prepositional phrase, Tony and Lance held what? Ashley and Nikki held what? If you got paddles and spears, that's the direct object. You are correct. So what is an indirect and direct object? So today we're going to further our understanding by looking at identifying the objects, the indirect objects and the direct objects. We have been doing some of that already, but listen to this rap and it'll help you know what order they appear in a sentence.
Complements direct object and indirect object. Oh yeah. To find the direct object, ask yourself this: whom or what receives the action? And you can't miss. To find the indirect object, look before the D-O. It tells to or for, what or who, and that's the I-O. The D-O is never in a preposition, but it can be compound.
Means two or more.
In a prep phrase, the object of the preposition is the noun or pronoun. To find the direct object, ask yourself this: whom or what receives the action? And you can't miss. To find the indirect object, look before the D-O. It tells to or for, what or whom, and that's the I-O. For example, the prince gave Snow White a kiss. To find the direct object, ask yourself this: whom or what receives the action? And you can't miss. The prince gave what? A kiss. To find the indirect object, look before the D-O. It tells to or for, what or whom, and that's the I-O. The object before the kiss tells to whom, right? And before the D-O, it was Snow White. To find the direct object, ask yourself this: whom or what receives the action? And you can't miss. To find the indirect object, look before the D-O. It tells to or for, what or whom, and that's the I-O.
All right, so direct objects follow transitive verbs and receive the action of the verb. They answer the question who or what after the verb. Indirect objects come before the direct object and answer to or for, what or whom. That's the indirect object. So Tony and Lance played basketball with Nikki and Ashley. Find the indirect and direct objects in that sentence. So you ask yourself, Tony and Lance played what? Basketball. That's the direct object. Nikki and Ashley are not, it's not before the D-O, so they're not indirect objects. That's a prepositional phrase, and those are the objects of the preposition. Tony threw Ashley the ball. Tony threw what? Did he throw Ashley or did he throw the ball? What's the direct object? Ball. Indirect object? Ashley. Ashley slam dunked the ball into the net. Ashley slam dunked what? The ball. And then into the net is the prepositional phrase. Nikki caught and passed Lance a rebound shot. Nikki caught and passed, compound verb. What did she catch? What did she catch and pass? Did she catch and pass Lance? Nope, she caught and passed the shot. Look before the D-O to find the indirect object. To or what? So she caught and passed the shot to or for Lance. Lance made a 3-point shot. Lance made what? A shot. Direct object. All right, hopefully you did those correctly. Now try, this is how they should have been. So they turned out to be Tony, Lance, Nikki, and Ashley played basketball. What's the direct object? They played basketball. Tony threw Ashley the ball. Tony threw what? The ball. Ashley's the indirect object. Ashley slam dunked the ball into the net. Ashley slam dunked what? The ball's direct object. Nikki caught and passed Lance a rebound shot. What did she catch? The shot. Who'd she pass it to? Lance is the indirect object. Lance made a 3-point shot. Lance is the subject. Verb, made, direct object, shot. All right. So why do we even care about indirect objects and direct objects? Well, we need to understand when to use an objective pronoun. So all of this comes down to being able to identify when to use an objective or subjective pronouns. You have to know the difference between those two types of pronouns. So objective pronouns are him, her, they, whom. Subjective pronouns, he, she, they, who. So objective pronouns are used to take the place of the following objects. They can be direct objects, indirect objects, objects of the preposition. So you learned about all three of those things in the last 2 grammar lessons. So all those nouns, those objects, direct object, indirect object, object of the preposition. They, him, her, them, and whom would be used in place of those direct objects. If they were at the beginning of the sentence as the subject, then there'd be he, she, they, who. So we need to recognize their function. So me or I gave Nikki and he or him a ride to school. Is gave acting as a transitive verb? If so, choose the objective pronoun. Did you give what? Give a ride. So yes, a ride. To, this is an objective, so would it be he or him? So although you would say, I know to say I, not me, I would say I gave. That's easy for you to know. But this next one, I gave him a ride, I gave he a ride. He sounds weird, him is correct. All right, I gave Nikki and him a ride to school. So that's why it's important is you're trying to pick between these subjective and objective pronouns. So watch this rep that's going to explain the difference between subjective and objective pronouns.
A little throwback to the 80s.
It's just going to list them for you.
Pronouns, personal pronouns.
So you can remember them.
Objective, possessive, and subjective. Shout, shout, shout it all out. Shout the personal pronouns that we're talking about. Shout, shout, shout it all out. Refer to people speaking, spoken to, or about. Shout, shout, shout it all out. Objective, possessive, and subjective, we shout. Break them down, down, wrap them with me. Wrap subjective pronouns, 1, 2, 3. I, you, they, who, she.
Subjective as the subject of the sentence.
Shout,
or predicate adjective.
Shout it all out. Subjective pronouns refer to the subject, no doubt. Shout.
So
shout,
subject.
Shout it all out.
Subject of the
objective, possessive, and subjective. We shout. Break them down. Break it down. Down. Wrap them with me. Objective pronouns are D-O-I-O-N-O-P. Break them down. Down, again and again. Me, you, him, her, it, us, whom, and them. Shout, shout, shout it all out. Possessive pronouns show ownership, it's their clout. Break them down, down. The last ones we use. My, mine, yours, his, hers, theirs, it's ours, and whose. Add an S to make them plural for those that you choose. Shout, shout. Shout it all out. The personal pronouns that we're talking about. Shout, shout, shout it all out. Refer to people speaking, spoken to, or about. Shout, shout, shout it all out. The personal pronouns that we just learned about. Objective, possessive, and subjective, we shout.
All right, so the objective, choose objective pronouns for objects, as I already told you, like the direct object, the indirect object, objects of the preposition. Choose subjective pronouns for subjective cases such as subject, predicate, nominative, subject, appositive, etc. Or positives. So the subjective pronouns are I, you, they, who, she, he, it, or we. Objective, me, you, him, her, it, us, whom, and them. Possessive, my, mine, yours, his, hers, theirs, its, ours, and whose. So that's why we needed to understand what are these different things in the sentence so that we can pick the right one. So Tony and I or me took Ashley and she or her with we or us. Which one would it be? Tony and I or me took Ashley. If I take Tony out of the sentence, would you say I or me took? Okay, that helps that. Ashley and she or her with us. They took, so this is going to be a direct object, right? They took what? Took Ashley and she. Or her. So which one would it be? Ashley and her or Ashley and she? They both sound equally odd, but because it's a direct object, we look up here for our objective ones and we go, oh, look which one it is. With we or us. And again, this with is now a preposition, so we have to go, okay, so this is the object of the preposition, so which one would it be? Which one's objective? We or us? This is subjective, this is objective. All right, so hopefully you picked the right ones. Who took my book and where are they or them? When you have a question, it's inverted, so you have to flip the order. They are where, so that becomes subjective. So which one is it for subjective? They or them. You go up here and say which one's subjective. Is it they or them? Subjective. Pick the right one. They or them, put they or them on the bookshelf. Subject, put direct object, they or them. Which one's the direct object? On the bookshelf. All right. So now, if all of that sounded confusing to you, here's something that helped me to remember it, and this is why I love my Cookie Monster so much. So here we go. This will help you to remember it.
Pronoun reference, objective, subjective. Objective pronouns are me, you, him, her, it, us, them, who, and whomever. Subjective or nominative pronouns are I, you, he, she, it, we, they, who, and whoever. When to use each, let's decide together. Use objective pronouns as objects, indirect object, object of the preposition, and direct object. Use subjective pronouns as a predicate, nominative, and as a subject. By now you should know your parts of speech. You are not a rookie. Good. She gave me a yummy, yummy cookie. She is the subject, me is the indirect object, and the direct object is cookie. Wait, let's ponder pronouns. An interesting thing I found was the M in all the object forms of the pronouns. Whom, whomever, him, me, them. Yes, I noticed her, us, it, and you don't have an M. And the object cookie was delicious. It made you say, with an M. Just like all those objective pronouns, the M is found in it. Pronouns that are subjective or nominative are used as subjects or predicate nominatives. Remember I, you, he, she, it, we, they, who, and whoever. There are no M's inside. That trick is very clever. The only pronoun with an M that is not objective is the word mine, and it sounds and is possessive. I got it.
All right, so now you know why I love Cookie Monster so much, because he helps us to remember which pronoun to use. So in the subjective case, it's I, you, he, she, it, we, they, who, and whoever. Objective pronouns, me, you, him, her, it, us, them, whom, and whomever. So if you know that objective pronouns take the place of direct objects, indirect objects, and objects of the preposition, and you can identify those, then you know which pronoun to use, and you just think about the M to know that those are the objects. So if you compare these two lists, you can see that I, me, you, he, him, she, her, it, we, us, they, them, who, whom, whoever, whomever. So the only differences are this one has the M. They're both you. This one has the M. This one doesn't have the M. They're both it. This one does not have the M. This one has the M. This one has the M. This one has the M. So the only ones you have to remember are the ones, now you don't have to remember because they're both the same. But you would have to remember that it's us, not we, and that it is, that's really the only one you have to remember, the her, that her is the same as him. So, having said all that, when you're choosing, would you say who or whom put the keys away and where are they or them? Well, the subject, would it be who or whom? Look up here, it's who. So who put the keys away and where are they or them? They or them is acting as the subject. They or them are here, are where. So since it's acting as the subject, I know that it's in an inverted order for a question, then I know that I would pick they. So, who put the keys away and where are they? That's the correct way to say that sentence. They put them in the desk drawer. So now you can see the subject, they, put, now that goes to our direct object. They put what, right? They put them. Direct object has the M. They would say they put them in the desk drawer. All right. So hopefully that was not too difficult for you to understand, but so we have subjective pronouns and objective pronouns. I want you to try this one. I or me went to school. All right, hopefully you had no problem with that one, and it's I went to school. It's always easy when it's one person by itself, but when we add someone, then it always sounds a little more difficult to figure out. So if you said Tony or I or Tony or me caught the bus, I've heard you guys say it wrong all the time. Tony and I caught the bus is the correct way, not Tony and me, because you wouldn't say me caught the bus. So you take Tony out of the sentence, and that helps you to figure out if it's the subjective, because they're acting as the subject, right? Tony and I are the subjects. So I caught the bus. You wouldn't say me caught the bus, so Tony and I caught the bus. So you delete that other person to help you decide. Okay, so we still have the same subjective, objective pronouns. Those aren't changing up here. You try this one. Nikki and I brought him or he to school. Okay, if you chose Nikki and I brought him to school, then you are correct, because it's in the objective case. We brought what? Brought him. Remember? Brought what? Ate what? Ate a cookie. Good. Has the M. We're looking for that M. Look up here. All these have these M's. Now that one's pretty easy, but it gets trickier when you add someone. Nikki and I caught Lance and he. Nikki and I caught Lance and him. Which one sounds better? Hitchhiking. So you have to just ask yourself, this is the subjects, Nikki and I caught. What did we catch? Lance. So it's an object, acting as an object. So which one of these is the object? Think about your cookie. Cookies are good with an M. All right, so hopefully you picked him. And if you delete the other person, it does help. Nikki and I caught him. If you got rid of Lance, Nikki and I caught Lance and he. Nikki and I caught Lance and him. They both sound kind of okay. But if you took Lance out, you wouldn't say Nikki and I caught he. You'd say Nikki and I caught him. All right. So now here's, I want you to try these, and I have color-coded them to help you out. So we have subjective ones are in the subject case and they're green. Objective ones are in the objective case and they're orange. So please correctly punctuate Lance and they or them brought Tony and him or he umbrellas. Please correctly punctuate Nikki and I or me bought Ashley and her or she ice cream. Please correctly punctuate Tony and her or she gave we or us hoodies. Ashley and he or him offered they or them tickets. And the last one, we or us took Lance and him or he beach towels. All right, and now without the color coding so that you can see if you learned from the last one, do these 5 yourself. Number 1, Tony and they or them brought Lance and him or he snorkels. Number 2, Ashley and I or me bought Nikki and her or she slippers. Number 3, Lance and her or she gave we or us shaved ice. Number 4, Nikki and he or him offered they or them zip packs. And the last one, we or us took Tony and him or he to Hunama Bay. All right, you are done and done. Great job. So now it is time to show what you know. We are going to quickly recap grammar capitalization rules. Remember how to capitalize everything properly. Remember that when you summarize, paraphrase, and quote, you must put the author and the page number. Remember that when you are asked to provide evidence, you always use quoted, direct quoted evidence. The only time you summarize or paraphrase is if they ask you to, and then you put it in your own words. Remember to always use spell check and to double check your editing because it always counts against you and for you if you do it correctly. Against you if you do it wrong. We remember to capitalize the first word in every sentence, that adjectives come before the word they modify and adverbs come before or after the words they modify. When you're doing dialogue, dialogue means conversation between 2 people. You change the line every time the speaker changes and you put what the person says in quotation marks. And of course, almost, any, none, and some. Just like our pronoun reference today that we were looking at, when you have almost, any, none, and some, then you know that they're going to be singular or plural depending on the contents of the sentence. However, if you have each, either, neither, everyone, everybody, no one, nobody, anyone, anybody, someone, somebody, they're always going to be singular. And they, them, and their can be singular or plural. We also learned that we set our direct address apart with a comma and that we always capitalize it. And that when we have an appositive in a sentence, an appositive renames or identifies a noun. So it's a noun following a noun, renaming it. And we will put it in commas if we can scoop it out of the sentence and we don't need to know it. But we don't put any commas for our positive if we need to know who we're talking about. And today we looked at objective and subjective pronouns. And we learned that I, you, he, she, it, we, they, who, whoever are subjective, and me, you, him, her, it, us, them, whom, and whomever are objective. And that is a wrap. Great job today. I look forward to talking to you in our next grammar lesson. Have a great day.